Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Rockman Power Hour. Thanks again for joining us for this episode. I just want to remind you right out of the gate, if you like this podcast, please like it, subscribe to it, and share it with your friends. We appreciate all the support. We put a lot of work into this, and we are really, really happy with the response that we've been getting from everybody. So thank you. Thank you for being on this journey with us. I am excited about today's episode. I'm always excited because I just absolutely love chatting with people. And, you know, there are two people in popular culture that have made a huge impact on all of us. And one of them, of course, is Slash from Guns N' Roses. Everybody knows that guy's name. Everybody knows his work. But there's another guy who's made a huge impact on popular culture, and you might not know his name, but you might know his work. And his name is Ron English. Ron and Slash have collaborated many times in their careers, and we managed to get both of them on today's Rockman Power Hour. I am extremely excited to have both of them on this episode. It's something that's never been done before, for as far as I know, and I think people will be extremely excited to hear both of these guys' stories and how they intertwined. And it's pretty rad. Ryan, my co-host, you know a little bit about both of these subjects, being a fan of Guns N' Roses and also knowing Ron English personally, because we've spent some time with him at his house.
I knew Ron, the dude, before I knew Ron, the art, to be honest. Like, we were on our Rockman and Ryan's Excellent Adventure in New Jersey and New York State. And, you're like, let's go to Ron English's house. I'm like, cool. Who's that? And like getting in his house and seeing this museum of amazingness and
of these
understanding. I'm kind of glad I wasn't a fan before, because I didn't have a chance to go all Chris Farley show and ruin it. So
yeah,
I
know exactly what you mean. I know.
Yeah,
I mean, when you go into Ron's living room, and let's show that picture of me in Ron's living room with him. Check that out. Isn't that rad? I mean, he is surrounded by stuff that he's created. And, you look at my background now, Ryan, and it's not quite as impressive, but there's still a
lot of smiles in that room.
There is. And the thing that Ron's known for, two things. He's known for his comment on popular culture, as you can see with this dude here. That's what happens when you eat too much McDonald's. And
Ron's like me last March.
Ron's not afraid to comment and to show that. And he, a lot of people got to know his work through the Super Size Me documentary that Martin Sporlock did. So that's one of the ways that he's touched on popular culture. He's also known for doing grins, which are the grins behind some popular culture faces like this one. This is a police grin. There's also the Charlie Brown grin. And I just love...
Good Lord.
I know, right?
For the audio podcast version that isn't actually seeing this, may I just say, if you want to look up Ron English's art, it's all over the internet, of course.
Yeah.
And make sure you check that out so you have the visual equivalent. But if you're listening in a podcast form, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube page as well, so you get the best of both worlds.
So we're going to explain to you after how Ron and Slash have kind of intertwined over the years with their work. But before we get to Ron, let's go directly to this gentleman who is known throughout the world as being one of the raddest guitar players. He's also a huge horror genre movie nerd. He's got a lot of toys behind. Loves dinosaurs too. You're right. He loves dinosaurs, and we'll see that too. So yeah, without any further ado, he's got a brand new album coming out February 11th called 4. Ladies and gentlemen, Slash. Hey man.
Hey.
How are you?
Oh, I have that t-shirt.
You do. You do. That's very cool. I'm very good friends with the Studio House guys.
Oh, okay, cool.
You have a lot of nerdy shit behind you too. That's really cool.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to bring this up really quickly. I know you know what this is.
Yeah, that's great though.
So you and I collaborated together. Did you know that?
No.
I sang on the NFT that you did for Riff.
Oh, no shit.
That was me. Yeah.
No fucking way.
Yeah.
That's
Ron's a good buddy of mine, and he messaged me. He's like, "Can you sing on something?" I'm like, "Of course, whatever you need."
Same way he did me. Hey, can you play guitar on something?
Yeah, it's like I'm not gonna say no to you, Ron. Of course. So,
well, that's really cool.
Big heart, deep soul. His mama should have used a
thanks for taking the time to talk today.
Yeah.
You know, I have loved this project for a long, long time. You know, Myles in the fold, Myles being a part of this. This band is really, this is the real deal. This isn't just a side project for you. This is a band. And it just seems evident every time you release something that this is its own entity. This thing really exists. It's not just a one-off thing. How does it feel? You know, you're releasing number 4. What does it feel like to have this kind of a project that became, you know, a real solidified band?
Well, you know, it's like we've been doing it for the fun of it for so long that I didn't even realize we've been doing it as long as we have been. Like when we were just getting to the point of releasing this record, like literally, you know, a month ago, I was like, wow, it's actually been 12 years since the first record, the first tour that we ever did together. Anyway, so it's been great because we have such an easygoing, creative and personal relationship, and we just have fun doing what we're doing, that it is, in a way, it's just effortless. It's just, we have a really good time. We don't have a lot of ancillary pressure. We don't have to live up to a lot of people's expectations. We just do what we do, and we have fun doing it, and we love doing it, and we love working, and we love going out and touring, and everybody is sort of in it to the same extent. And that's why it's just all gone by so quick. So, you know, the fact that one of the reasons that we called it 4 was the fact that we'd actually arrived at a 4th record.
Yeah.
Wow, you know, and there was that, and also we didn't want to have any reminder of 2020 whatsoever. So I didn't want to try and come up with any kind of a title.
Yeah.
Try to encapsulate that, or there was too broad of a fucking period, 2020, to even try and come up with a clever fucking remark for. Anyway, so we just wanted to keep it simple. But yeah, I mean, I know we had a great time making this record. I think that after everything that we've done together to arrive at this place where we could just go in and let loose in a room with just microphones on was really liberating and fun, and especially in the midst of everything else that was going on, you know. I mean, I can't say enough nice things about, you know, the whole situation.
Yeah. And you know, Todd Kearns, fellow Canadian, I've known him way back from, you know, early 90s when he was in Age of Electric. Glad to see him playing with you. The band itself is a solid band, and I've noticed that the band's getting more, you know, the band gets more billing now. When the things are released, it's, you know, featuring Myles. Was there a conscious thought into that, or was it just?
It was, so, I mean, initially when it first started, and I, you know, we were about to go out and tour on my first solo record. Myles is going to be the singer.
Yeah.
Then it was really Slash featuring Myles Kennedy, just to give him due credit, right?
Of course.
And then, you know, Brent came into it, and then he introduced me to Todd, and that really became a thing. So we went out and toured for a good year on that solo record. So when we went to do Apocalyptic Love, at that point we established ourselves as a full-blown band. And I said, well, those guys need to have some sort of recognition as well. And so I came up with the Conspirators, and that became part of the title. So all things considered, it started off really simple, and it got bigger as time went on. And it became probably one of the longest band titles out there. But you know, it is what it is.
When you know, it's funny because I'm listening to, you know, I listened to Call Off the Dogs, and it's funny because I'm listening to some of the riffs, and I'm like, man, they're like, that guy's like ripping off like a riff. And I'm like, wait a minute, you wrote the riff that you're ripping off.
What did I write? What is it?
Some of the riffs are reminiscent of riffs you've written before. And it's funny because I forget sometimes that this is your own thing. This isn't a GNR thing. This is your thing. And it's funny how some of the riffs you've written, I mean, let's face it, you know, the elephants in the room, they're riffs that are in the ethos of rock and roll. I mean, these are iconic songs that you've written. So it's funny to hear your style of playing on something new and have it make me reminisce of something you wrote, you know, all those years ago. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I got you. I definitely have sort of
you have a style.
I think. So I mean, it's great that I actually have one, but sometimes they might come across like, oh yeah, that's a Slash riff.
The live record, living the dream. This was pretty rad thing to put together. Double album, really, really nice package. When you put this together, was it taken over one concert? Was it taken over several?
No, that was a show at Hammersmith in London.
Okay.
Back in, I guess it was 2018 or 2019, and that was just one gig. Yeah.
And when you look back on something like that, again, I'm bringing up Ron. Does it bring back any memories? Do you want to get back to this as soon as you can?
I'm dying to go.
Yeah.
We're all dying to get out and play. I haven't looked at that record since it came out, so I actually hadn't really given it much thought.
It's rad. Check it out.
I do remember that show and what was going on at that venue that night. But I mean, we fuck. I mean, there's not enough time to express all the different shit that everybody was going through, along with everybody else during this sort of event that we're in the midst of. But there was a point there where it was like, you know what, fuck it, let's just go make a record anyway.
Yeah.
And we set about to do that, and we finished it in April, and then realized, for various reasons, we had to wait 10 months till February to put it out. So it's the longest lead time I've ever had for a record in my career. And sitting around waiting for it to come out. I haven't listened to it until just recently because I had to get away from it, because otherwise
of course,
I analyze it and all that. And so now that it's finally coming out, there's that anxious kind of feeling. But then on top of it, we're finally going to get out, COVID willing, and start touring, which we haven't played. Our last show was at some point in 2019, which is basically 3 years ago. So we're pretty anxious to get out and do exactly that. Yeah.
What did you fill your time with when you were not touring?
Well, okay. I mean, we Guns was supposed to do a world tour starting that month, and we actually played the first show of that tour in Mexico, because the promoters didn't cancel the gig. It was a festival. Yeah. And we were like, what do we do? And so we ended up playing it to not let all those people down. But then everything shut down. So for the first couple of weeks, I think, along with everybody else, you're sort of navigating what is actually going on.
Yeah.
And acclimating to, like all these sort of constantly changing reality. And then finally, once it sort of settled in, I just got back to work. So I started working on Guns material that was recording, and then also making demos for this record. And then I did some outside sessions, and I did a lot of writing, and so I just kept myself really busy. And then I was also doing movie stuff, and there was a movie that was completed during the pandemic called The Breach, which is actually going to come out this year. I produced, and I'm 8 producer on.
I've heard about that. You've got a big love for horror movies, right?
Yeah, definitely genre movies, not just horror, but like thrillers, and even some science fiction if it's horror based. Anyway, but so I was just busy with a million things and keeping myself occupied, because if I have a really like crazy history with off time. Yeah. And I've gotten myself into a lot of bad situations just from not knowing what to do with myself with downtime. So, when the pandemic came, I was like, okay, I'm going to get to work.
Gotta have a plan. Yeah. You're one of the funnest guys to follow on Instagram, because I love Instagram pages that are just fun. And, they're not too crazy. And with all the climate of the world right now, no matter where you're going, you're going to get an opinion, but your stuff is just always really, really fun. Do you have fun doing that? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a production. I mean, I find stuff and I queue it up. And then, and like I'll get up during the day and I'll post something, and that's basically it. I just find cool shit and I just put it up there. And I've been doing that ever since I got my first Instagram. Yeah. I just look for stuff that appeals to me and I'll just put it out there. I'm definitely on probation with Instagram for some of the stuff that I've put out. and on double secret probation with fucking Facebook. But anyway, I have fun with it. But if I should disappear one day, you'll know why.
I'll know why if you're in Facebook jail. Thank you so much for taking the time. New album comes out February 11th. Continued success, and I can't wait to see what people think of this record because I love it.
Well, thanks, man, and we're excited too. And maybe, I don't know, we're playing actually a gig in Windsor. I don't know how far that is from where you're at.
Worth the drive, Montreal, but I could do the drive to Windsor. I drove to Windsor. I drove there to see Tears for Fears. I can go there to see you.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. It's our only Canadian date, but yeah, just let's hope everything. I just wish everybody to be safe, and hopefully this craziness will start to wind down a little bit, and like
cool.
that.
Well, thanks for taking the time, man.
All right, man. Take care. Cheers.
Yeah, for sure. Great chatting. Right? I have nothing to say on that. I'm frozen.
I love Slash, man. I like the fact that pre-pandemic I got to see Slash, Dove, and Axl on the same stage just still rocks my world.
Yeah.
A little funny story about that Guns N' Roses reunion. You know how like people can potentially ruin a concert by singing too loud and out of key?
Yeah.
Guilty. Because I wasn't just singing along. I was trying to sing along as Axl, and me and my buddy Richie, who don't have high voices, were both doing it. But God, Axl sang his ass off that night, and seeing Slash play in person for like 2-3 hours effortlessly, is something that really sticks with me to this day. I have his book. I love Slash, love him.
Same. And after chatting with him, he's just such a nice guy, an incredible player. And I love his solo stuff. I love Myles Kennedy singing Slash's stuff. I mean, that band is just deadly. So to see him continuing with that, and like I mentioned when we chatted, this isn't just a side project. This is just another band that he has that is quite prolific. So, but as we mentioned, at the beginning, not only do him and I have the same affinity for, Studio House brand t-shirts, we also share a friend who is Ron English, and Ron has done some work with Slash. I got to sing on Slash's NFT. Do you know anything about NFTs, Ryan? Do you know what NFTs are?
I don't know what it is. I'm an old man yelling at a cloud.
All right. I'm going to tell you really what an NFT is. NFTs are called non-fungible tokens. So what they are basically is they are digital pieces of art that you own that aren't physical. They don't exist in a physical space. They exist in a metaverse. Now, I know for you and I were exactly the same kind of thing that people were saying when someone showed them Napster and said, you don't have to buy CDs anymore. You can just get all this music. It was the same thing. So NFTs are on the ground right now, about to blow up. They are blowing up. And Ron English is on ground zero with that. With NFTs, he's at the forefront of that movement, and he's doing it. And Slash contributed with Ron to they collaborated on an NFT, and they asked me to sing. Well, Ron messaged me and he said, can you sing on this? And I was like, of course, whatever you need. And then he's like, Slash did the guitar part. And I was like, what? So that technically means that I kind of had a song with Slash, but that's what happened.
I would have just accepted, a Slash is just like, I no longer want to drink this water. And just being the receptor of said water walking by, just to have a little conversation and just look at him and say, good aim.
Right. So, when that was presented to me, it was like a no-brainer. Whenever Ron asked me to do anything creatively, I always say yes, because I just respect him. And I love the fact that he creates from the same place that I like to create from now. A place where it's just about the art. It's not about money. It's about the art. It's about creating. It's about getting something out of you that needs to come out. So when artists create from that place, it's a nice place to be. It's a nice space to exist in. So regardless of all that, Ron is amazing. You've met him, you spent some time with him, and now everybody is going to be able to spend some time with Ron. I'm excited about this, Ryan, because Ron's rad, and I'm a huge fan of Ron. And without any further ado, here is our chat with the godfather of street art, Mr. Ron English. All right, really, really happy to have with us today on the Rockman Power Hour a guy who I've kind of been friends with for a while, and but is also someone that I admire greatly for his work in pop culture. And A lot of people that know me know I talk about you all the time, Ron, because I'm a fan and I love what you do. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Ron English to the Rockman Power Hour. Good to have you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for being in my band.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Okay, so our relationship started in a very organic way. You were in Montreal for Mural Fest. You were painting a massive mural in Montreal a few years back, and I got a call from someone that we knew in common who said Ron is in Montreal, and his friend is looking for some pot.
My agent or manager or whatever he was at the time.
Yeah.
I also remember that he sat next to you and was cussing a lot, and I'm thinking, oh my god. But I think that maybe he was off mic enough, but I was a little concerned.
Yeah, well, I facilitated for him. I helped him get what he needed, and at the same time, you came into the studio and did an interview, which was great. And it was a chance for us to actually meet and to talk, and ever since then, we've kind of bounced in and out of each other's lives. We saw each other again at San Diego Comic-Con when I brought my son to San Diego for his 13-year non-Jewish bar mitzvah, or I call it a geek mitzvah. And then the ball started rolling. But what I like about you is that you touch on so many different things. You're not just a toy maker. You're not just a painter. You're not just a musician. You're kind of a little bit of everything. And can you just tell me how that all started?
I think that you get interested in a lot of things when you're young, and the difference between me and maybe other people is I didn't give up on anything. So,
right.
You were in the high school band and you think, yeah, maybe I'm not going to be a rock star, but I want this to be a part of my life forever. So I've always looked for different ways for music to be a part of my life. And currently it's a part of my life in the form of the Rabbits. That's with 3 B's. You have to misspell it.
Yeah.
You have to persistently misspell it to find it, because we are down a weird rabbit hole. But it was the idea of taking all these characters I've created all these years and bringing them to life, using different singers, and we write all the songs, so all the albums kind of tell a story. But like, here's the main character, Ronnie Rabbit, and in this one he has the grin treatment, which is something I do in a lot of characters.
Yeah.
So and he's holding a record because he's actually Tower Records is opening a new store in Brooklyn, and they're going to release Ronnie, the grin version of Ronnie holding a record for this which is kind of cool, because actually my very very first toy, it was even kind of at the inception, or at the very beginning of this weird toy culture. I did a toy through Dark Horse of Ronnie Rabbit, and it was distributed through Tower Records. So it was before the limited edition thing. It was just, I think we sold about 7,000 of them, but it was like an open source thing. But
yeah.
So they wanted to come, as they're reintroducing themselves to the world, they wanted to come back and they want to do Ronnie Rabbit, like an updated version. They're going to do all the Delusionville records, the Rabbits, as vinyl, and then do a box set of everything with the vacuum form. I don't know, like a collectible. So yeah. So I think everybody right now is kind of making a comeback and trying to find a new way to interface with the world. So,
and this is just one aspect. I mean, this is just the music stuff. But I mean, you're involved with, music, with toys. You're also, you're a fine arts painter. I mean, you have gallery shows where people come in and will spend thousands and thousands of dollars on one of your paintings because you're very, very highly regarded in that world too. So you have your toes dipped in a lot of different pools. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird. People try to understand me but I think only about 5% of what I do actually makes money. So
right.
I don't distinguish what makes money and what loses money. I just do whatever I want and sort of have a lot of faith, I remember once my friend converted to Christianity, and he was like, well, like, do you have faith? Do artists even have faith? And I'm like, are you kidding? You know how much faith you have to be an artist? Like, I don't know if you have to have that much faith to be a Christian. You just have to show up at church on Sunday. But
well, when you think about the way you started, I mean, with billboards and stuff, and a lot of that guerrilla style of approaching of approaching some of the stuff that's in our face every day. I remember hearing those stories of you going into grocery stores and making your own cereal boxes and then mixing them in with the rest of the cereal boxes
Really?
in the grocery store. Tell me a bit about that, because I think that's something that maybe a lot of people might not know, but that's pretty cool.
Well, it's interesting. I come from a very small town. I didn't know who Andy Warhol was. I didn't know who Jackson Pollock was. I didn't know anything about the outside world. I just lived in this weird, isolated small town. There was no internet. Maybe we got some underground comic books. That was our little porthole to another universe. But I knew I was an artist, and so I made art, and I didn't think, oh, we have to make paintings and put them in a gallery, because that didn't exist in this small town. So what I did do is just I made things, and then I put them in places where I knew people would be, and I made them relate to like that situation. So I would make package designs, and I would come up with my own kind of beer, like Wolf Whiz beer, and then I would product place it around or reverse shoplift it into different stores. Only later, did I actually get people to go in with cameras and get people's reactions. So I kind of never had any sense of how people were reacting to my art, and I didn't connect that dot yet. Like, it didn't seem important to me that I knew how they were enacting or what their what it was like for them to experience it. Like I used to go to the cliffs in Austin and in Dallas and create like fossils. So there'd be like a fossilized weird dinosaur. I'd make up my own dinosaur, but it would be embedded in the rocks. And so if you were like on the trails walking, you would look over and think, oh my God, there's an exposed dinosaur skeleton, but I don't quite recognize that dinosaur. It's a strange one. I don't know why I was just doing it, and I didn't care. I never hung around to see like what people thought. So
what the reactions were, right?
Yeah,
right.
Because your impetus, or at least my impetus, was I felt like I had to make art,
Yeah.
And it never occurred to me that I could ever make a living at it, or even, have the experience of what it was like for other people to experience or know that, I don't know why I didn't care. I was just weird.
No, I think you just truly did it because you needed it to come out. It had to be out there in the world. It did. And so what is it like now when you can put something out that is probably from from the same spot in you, a very pure place, but when you put it out, but you can get that reaction and you can get people, messaging you and commenting and all that. Is it different?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I feel like that in my lifetime, all the dots, I think for all of us have kind of connected, and it's kind of scary. I mean, we're way more interconnected than we've ever been.
Yeah.
I did a project, the Light Cult Crypto Club, where I made 10,000 PFPs. And so, I had to have I had to have 1,000 original ideas, and then set it up the machine to make 9,000 other original ideas. But before, I couldn't have made that amount of work and disseminated it to that many people,
Right.
It's also kind of like every idea that can possibly be had is being had right now, and all the space is just kind of filling up, and finding a little place for yourself is very difficult right now.
Well, I think you've pretty much cemented your spot, though. I mean, I think you're good. You've got like I mentioned, you're relevant in a lot of different areas in pop culture, which is cool. The music project, Ryan knows, a little bit about the Rabbits. I play this guy in the Rabbits, who's Punk Skunk.
Yeah, Punk Skunk, yeah. And your song is one of the most popular songs too. So
is it really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, they kind of track it like going up, but yeah, it's like a crazy thing, and we kind of went down this rabbit hole. I started writing with Joe Johnson, and I think I did one record where I wrote with a couple other people, but we've been doing this for 7 years now, and we don't know why we're doing it. We just keep doing it. We just keep putting it out. Yeah. And I feel like maybe now we're starting to figure out what we can do with it. So like the most recent thing I've been working on is, do you know the platform Vivi?
Yep.
Yeah. So they do digital collectibles. And so he showed up at my house before the pandemic and before the whole NFT explosion. And he was trying to pitch the NFT idea to me, like taking some of my characters and creating like digital toys with them. And I think just before he had met with me, he met with Marvel and DC out in LA. And, he had a little private jet and he was flying around, locking down all these licenses, before the whole, and I don't think I didn't quite understand what this was going to be. And the whole thing is blown up like in the last year. And like on BB now, we put something up for sale and it sells out in less than a half a second. But meanwhile, you know, some of the stuff I put out, like I put music with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously, you know, you sang on a song with Slash.
Yeah. Like we'll just let that that roll off the tongue like it's not a big deal. You just did a song with
no,
Slash.
because suddenly, you know, what was selling was art, and nobody had found a way to do the music thing yet. So a lot of musicians that I admire and probably would have to stand in line to get their autograph for 2 hours suddenly are calling me up going, I want to be in this world. Can you help? Can we do art together? And so like with him, I'd made art for his album covers and stuff. So I said, well, yes, I understand, you know, we work well together. I know what he likes, and I can work in his wheelhouse, or we work well together. And I knew we could make some great stuff, but I'm like, you have to have music too. And he goes, I don't want to put music in there. You know, I just want to, you know, do the art thing or whatever. Cause I don't think people cared about music at that point. And, so I don't think a lot of people that bought those pieces realized that there was an original piece of music that went with it.
Went along with it.
And I did. He didn't want to do it at first, and then I talked him into doing it. And you know, I did something kind of different with one of them, like that, something he would never do. So we really did collaborate, and it was really interesting. And you know, and the weird thing about music is you almost have to collaborate with music. I guess some people make it by themselves, but yeah, it's like collaborating with super talented people is like really an interesting thing to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, I know. I mean, just collaborating with you.
Yeah.
You know, and Ryan, what's great about Ron is that Ron's not necessarily he's not necessarily a musician per se. Cause do you play any instruments?
No. I took like 5 years of drum lessons. So,
so Ron I think Ron's the only guy I know who has a band, but doesn't play anything and doesn't really sing.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like the ringleader, which is great.
Right.
Like if I was to envision a rabbit show, I would envision you with a big top hat, being pretty much the MC.
Yeah, I do. When we do get to do shows, I come out and I explain what the backstory is, and then we start the concert, and then I kind of give sometimes some context between songs about what's happening. You know, like right now the Wolves are trying to have a revolution, and this is why the Wolves, you know, but I think once you understand the stories, the songs become a lot more enjoyable because you can understand who the characters are.
Ryan, do you remember when we showed up at Ron's house?
Do I? That was a stop off on Rockman and Ryan's Excellent Adventure in New York State, where we ran out of gas right after leaving your house.
I don't know if did you know that happened, Ron?
I know that I sent my kids out to siphon a little bit of gas out of your tanks for our car, but I told them don't drain it.
No, what happened was let me just back up, Ryan, then you can tell the rest of the story because it's a pretty cool story.
Sure.
Ryan and I were on a weekend with DMC, and because DMC had a recording for Record Store Day that I had kind of helped him with. So we went to 3 different record stores. We went to one in Long Island, we went to one in New Jersey, and then one in
I just remember it's called the Record Archive.
In Rochester.
Yeah.
So when we were doing that route, I said, hey, we're so close to where Ron is. Let's go see Ron. And so we ended up going to Ron's house for dinner. And I remember you said to me, you guys can stay here if you want. Like, we got space. And I declined because I didn't want to impose. So we got in the car after, and
our Canadian politeness prevented us from
from saying
staying in Ron's sweet house.
I didn't want to impose. So we got in the car and we drove. And we had a hotel that was booked, and I ran out of gas. And I didn't realize because I didn't check the gas gauge. And I was like, you know, when you're on the highway, Ron, you're like, the next station, I can make it to the next station. Well, it was so late that the next station never arrived. And we ran out of gas in this small fucking town. And
it's not just that. We thought we were about to get to a station, and it was 20 minutes of nail-biting nervousness where we're like, oh my God, are we going to make it? Like, seriously, David Lynch, crazy, dark crap, where we're just staring at the headlights wondering, are we going to make it? Are we going to make it? And every 5 minutes, we're like, I think we're going to make it. We get to a gas station. It's closed. It's a small town gas station.
So
that's just
what
closed.
Happened? Did you have to walk or?
Well, Well, okay. Well, you can say what happened. It's okay.
Okay, well, Jason found really sketchy hotel that was about 5 minutes away, like murder a hooker hotel type situation. And we get there, and it's a weird hotel. Like, you go to the front, you got to make a phone call. Someone emerges from the woods and gives you the key to your room and stuff. So we're like, well, we're sleeping in our clothes. And yeah, and then we got up in the morning, and strangely enough, the town, not clouded in darkness, is much more pleasant in the daytime. So but we went on our merry way. But thank you for the wonderful dinner.
Yeah, you
Because
should have stayed. We have a lot of room.
I know.
That's one of the reasons that we live farther away from New York, so we can have more space. And also we find that it was weird. We lived in New York City, and everybody would come, to our studio. We actually had a huge studio that was down on Chambers Street. It took up the whole city street. It was you looked out on one street at one window and on another street on the other window. And then there were actually nobody lived in Tribeca, so we had 2 empty floors below us where we would have bands play and huge parties. And then we moved to Jersey, and it's 10 minutes away from where we were before on Chambers Street. Nobody would come to my studio. Nobody would go 10 minutes to Jersey. And then at some point, dealing with a mob in Jersey or just all the craziness, finally we came, we looked at Beacon. We came to do a mural festival in Beacon, and then we thought, well, it's, let's just do this. There's no way we're ever getting back in New York again, and we can't take Jersey anymore. So we'll move up there. But we're pretty much write off your career, write off people coming to see you. I mean, if they're not going to come 10 minutes into Jersey, they're not going to come an hour and a half up to Beacon. So yeah, we're going to be lonely. We weren't even sure if the people up here would be hillbillies. But no, then we moved up here, and then everybody comes up from New York. And I swear to God, almost every day somebody is here visiting from New York. Like yesterday, a guy came up and we wrote songs together, but almost every day somebody comes up from New York and hangs out. So it's weird. Like they'll come an hour and a half, but they don't go 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's how much the deep hate for Jersey is.
Yeah. Well, also, I remember like when I lived in New York and I was a truck driver, I would be so happy if we got to drive to Connecticut and just so I could see some trees or something. You live in the weird canyon and it's a little oppressive, and go to Jersey is not a break from New York.
Yeah.
But coming upstate is, so I don't know. But yeah, we're quite happy here, and I wish you would have stayed. We would have made you a nice breakfast.
Well, I think that's one of that's one of the reasons why every time I talk about you or I show Ron one of the toys, not Ron, I show Ryan one of the toys, I think it kind of brings back PTSD from that night.
Well, yeah, but you also showed me my favorite band when we were in a car, Carpenter Brute, which is essentially like John Carpenter music on steroids. And when you're scared you're going to run out of gas on a dark highway and you don't know where you are and you hear Carpenter Brute music, you're like, damn, if I'm ever going to experience this music, it's got to be right now, because it's going into my brain and my heart at the same time. But Ron, I wanted to ask you something. Your music is like the visual equivalent of what punk rock should be to me. Like, kind of like showing society with the dirty lens that it actually should be seen in sometimes. What do you listen to in the shop sometimes? Because so many musicians like love your work, but what are the musicians that you listen to or ever have listened to as an inspiration?
I don't listen to music because it makes it hard for me to concentrate. So sometimes when I work like in the office, we listen to different things. When I paint murals, usually like I'll hook up with local kids. So usually have a lift operator, which is more often than not like a street tagger kid that gets a job for the city doing that. So when I do that stuff, what I usually do is say, you're going to run the lift and then you're going to be my DJ. And I don't want to hear anything I've heard before. I want to hear what you like, and I don't want to hear anything I've heard before. I want you to turn me on to like things I've never heard before. And they love that too, because for the next 3 days they get to show off all the music they know about, the underground hip hop or whatever they know. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting trying to find new music. It's a bit of a challenge, and and I think a lot of people think you listen to the music in the studio all day, and if it kind of distracts you and I can't concentrate, then I can't really do that too much.
Have you ever been like on with the lift operator for 3 days and they're playing stuff and you're like, oh my God, I can't stand this, but I've got to put on a brave face? Or is it always
no?
Okay.
I like everything.
Yeah.
And also with kids these days, they're open to everything. We were just locked in. No, I worked at a bowling alley, and the woman in the cafe, says, hey, you know, I got tickets to go see Elvis. Would you like to drive a couple towns and go see Elvis with me? I can't find anybody to go. And I'm like, I'm going to go see Ted Nugent. I don't want to go see Elvis. You know, but that's what we were like. We liked our heavy metal, and we didn't like anything else, you know. And it wasn't until college that I opened up to jazz and all these other art forms. But we were very strict about what we liked and very myopic, which was sad. And the kids today aren't. You know what I mean? They'll listen to anything. So they're a lot more exposed. They're exposed to a lot more stuff, but they're also open to a lot more stuff, and they're not prejudiced against other any art form.
No, and the thing with you too is that you've crossed over into so many different genres. You know, like you've got a massive following in the hip hop community that love to collect your stuff. And it's pretty cool to see. You know, like I remember you did a collab with you've done some pretty big collaborations with some pretty big artists. But the hip hop communities have really embraced you, and they really, really love your toys. Especially, I mean, I remember when you were launching the Charlie Grins, and I saw Questlove like with a picture with one of them, and I was like, man, it's like it's great because it just shows that there really is no boundaries when it comes to art.
Right. But it feels good for me too, because it's a two-way street. Because, you know, for years I was just a fan of music, and then at some point it kind of flipped to where they're also a fan of my stuff, and they'll take my phone call and we could work on a toy together, or we could work on a song together. And I don't know, it's I'm still like a fanboy.
Yeah, so am I.
You know,
I'm the total same.
Believe that you know, I can't believe my luck.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I say it's funny because it's almost like I built this life where I'm actually dependent on having some miracle happen to me at least once every 2 weeks. So. And it does, you know. But I think we're trying to figure that out. But I think it's just, you know, well, I always say if you want to get hit by a car, go stand in the road. But I think a lot of life is just putting yourself out there. You know what I mean? And not being able to, you know, shout out people like in different things. And sometimes they pick up on it. You know, like my son was super into Linkin Park, right? And they were a phenomenal band back, you know, before the tragedy. And I was really proud of him that he liked something that good and that deep. And then he was reading an article about him, and they asked Mike Shinoda, well, like, if you could collaborate with anybody in the world, you know, any living person in the world, like, who would you like to collaborate with? And he goes, Ron English. And my son's going, wait, what he just what? That's my dad. And so we'll call his management, and so we got to go like to a couple shows and go backstage, and then later me and Mike ended up making some paintings together and stuff. But it's just, if he wouldn't have said that, I wouldn't have pursued him, and you know, I just would have just stayed a fanboy, you know.
Well, so right, here's a perfect opening for that. You know, you did this for Slash.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's just like, tell me how that came together, because, you know, Slash is a guest on the show as well today.
Yeah.
And I want to know, how did that collaboration come? You know, was it like this? Was it as organic as this?
We shared the same manager a long time ago, Vicki Hamilton. So she's the one that got Slash signed to Geffen Records and everything. And then I think that they didn't feel like that she was at a level to take them do the stadium tours and everything that was going to happen after that.
Right.
And so I don't think he was working with her anymore, but they stayed really close friends. So a guy was making a movie about me, Pedro Carvajal. So she said, well, I can get Slash. He likes your art. He'll come and talk about it. So he came to one of my shows and appeared in the documentary. And then I gave him a painting of Marilyn with Mickey. And then after that, we kind of became friends, and I ended up doing a lot of different things with him, like some art, some sculptures, some album covers. And but he's super into the same kind of art I am. And he actually, you know, he really knows probably more about this world than I do.
And it's funny when you think about, you know, at the end of the day, we're all just people, right? But what I love about Slash is that he never stops being a fan. Like, he is a fan. And you can tell that he's a fan, you know, just by his background behind him. I mean, he's got, you know, I've got pop figures. He's got pop figures. He's got, like, it's just, he's a big kid.
Right. But if you think of all the really iconic, great people like David Bowie or Mick Jagger, they were always into everything. They were always open-minded. They were always following everything. And then, now it's disco. And they never went disco sucks. They just go like, how can I play with this new art form? Yeah, you know. And,
well, yeah, and I think you have to kind of always keep that wonderment. Like you kind of always have to remain a bit of a kid.
Right. Yeah, and you also have to make sure that you understand that you're part of this huge community, and it's not really about you. You're just fortunate to be a member of this community. I mean, the artists I've seen fail are ones like, hey, who's your favorite artist? Oh, me. It's like, okay, that's a very narrow view of the world. And of course, you better like your own art because, I mean, I stare at like a painting for 2 months before it's done. So I hope I like it. But yeah, I think you have to be more open to the world. Oh, look, here's my shoe with Kevin Durant.
Oh, wow.
Is that
and
so?
See, it's the Light Cult crypto club guy. See, there's this mohawk.
Oh, that's what it is. So I couldn't figure out how that. Okay, so that goes.
That's his lightning bolt mohawk. And this one, we got a toy that comes out with it.
I love how he just like rolls off. Oh, here's my shoe with Kevin Durant, like one of the biggest basketball players in the world.
Yeah, but it's a little better than him saying, "Hey guys, want to see my shoe with Kevin Durant?" I bet you do. Like after all these years, if you don't have a humble mind, I guess you just would have gone insane like decades ago, right?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, it was fun. He lets us. He let me come to his games, and then my kids kind of caught on that I was getting free tickets to the games, and they decided those were their tickets.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure the seats were close, right?
Yeah. You can get sweat. You can get some sweat on you.
Ron, I got to ask you. There's an artist that Jason and I both love named Neil Adams, and he was telling a story about how sometimes the biggest jerks in an artist's life are their friends that are artists that are constantly telling them you can't do this. Norman Rockwell, when he was doing his paintings, what he would do is he'd, take a picture and then start painting the picture. And all his artist friends are like, you can't do that. And eventually would lead to him getting a projector, painting that. He's like, but guys, I'm making so much more stuff. And they're like, yeah, but you can't do this. You can't. We were mentioning about music before. You're not allowed to like this if you like heavy metal. Did you have anybody in your life that you kind of had to cut the cord on when you were developing your really original style that was telling you, you can't do this with toys?
Yeah, all you hear your whole life is, oh, that can't be done. And then later they go, I can't believe you did that.
Yeah.
And then 10 minutes later, no, that can't be done. Oh, I can't believe you did that. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think that I listen to people and I take criticism and I think it's really important and I'm respectful of it, but I never let it dominate what I want to do. I'm just going to do what I want to do. And I also understand I do work with people and I have an art dealer and he finds me super frustrating, but actually I'm his longest term relationship. I'm the artist that's been with him the longest. So he does good with me, but it's like I never repeat myself or make it easy for him, because like once you made a show and you paint a certain thing or you paint Marilyn with Mickey, then you can just have Marilyn with Mickey shows the rest of your life. And it would be very easy for him because everybody's already decided they want one. And then, because on the other side of the equation, he's got customers that are going, why won't he paint that anymore? I didn't get one of those. I want one of those. Or that's the thing that he's known for. Why won't he do that? So it's very frustrating, but at the same time, dude, I made you a better dealer. You have to work harder to sell my stuff because I don't repeat myself too much. And, somebody just keeps making the same thing and you decide you like it or you don't, but, I do try to be conscious that I am working with other people and they need to survive and stay in the game too,
Can you tell me where the grin idea came from? Because I've always wanted to ask you that. Because if people don't know, Ron will take, if you look behind me, and I always have your stuff behind me, but Ron will take popular, sometimes, a lot of time popular pop culture figures and grin them out. Is that proper terminology? You grin them?
That sounds good to me. Like most things in an artist's life, you just, I did that. I just, somebody smiled and then you kind of see too much of their like upper gums.
Yeah.
And it kind of weirds you out. And you realize how subtle it is. If somebody's eyes just a little too much this way, it's disturbing to look at them. So I was kind of like thinking about that. And I was thinking, what if you just took it just a little bit farther and you can see their skull? And then it also kind of plays into, I always liked that big brands have, they used to get a very cute cartoon character to represent maybe insurance or something that's, I don't know, maybe they were doing something nefarious, but you can't hate them because you can't hate Mickey Mouse or you can't hate Snoopy.
Right.
So it's a great face to put on a corporation, and it kind of sometimes it's masking nefarious things. So there's always like a weird evil undertone to a smile. I remember that song, They Smile in Your Face, but all the time they just want to take your place.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just exposing a little bit of the dark underside. And then I realized, well, first I did it with the smile, the happy face, and then I did it with Charlie Brown, and then I found out that it actually worked on a lot of different things, and it kind of gained its own momentum and became popular to the point where I think the King Features sued me for putting the grin on Charlie Brown, and then they invited me to be in their museum, and then Warner Brothers and all these other brands just started just flat out saying, "Would you do the grin on Taz, and we'll release it as a toy?" Or
oh wow.
So, but inside my lifetime, the response has been different. They always say, the definition of a fool is somebody who repeats a certain behavior and expects
different result.
Expects different results, but
yeah,
you do get different results because your repeated behavior actually changes the world in a way, and so the world around you is changing, and partially because you keep repeating something, they get used to it. So repeating something sometimes helps, and people do kind of soften to the idea, or the way people look at the world changes, and then suddenly they embrace what you did that they were kind of hostile to maybe a couple of years ago. Like, remember Stravinsky released the Rite of Spring, or they performed it, and people rioted, and they were offended, and they just couldn't believe that he took a dump on them like that. But a year later they performed it again, and most of the same people came back and thought this is one of the greatest pieces of music ever. So basically their brains had to evolve to be able to take in this new way of making music.
Right.
And I think sometimes if you're persistent, then you actually get to reap the rewards, because a lot of times, like with artists, and this has actually happened to me a lot, is you'll come up with a thing and you'll do it for a while and you kind of get bored with it and you move on to another thing, or I will, and somebody else will pick it up, and then they'll actually build a career around that weird technique that you were doing that you kind of got bored with. Like, there's a really funny story from the East Village where there was this one artist and he did a certain thing, and it was basically he just appropriated the work of other people, and they called it appropriation art. It was a big thing in the 80s, but he couldn't sell it. His name was Mike Howard. He couldn't sell anything. And this other guy, his friend Mike Bidlis, says, "Well, you're not going to do that anymore, right?" And he goes, "No, I'm not going to do that anymore. It just doesn't work, Mike." And he goes, "Would you mind if I did that?" And he goes, "Yeah, knock yourself out. Everybody thinks it's stupid." And so Mike did the same thing, and then got huge.
Yeah.
Because suddenly the idea of appropriation and challenging what's original and where does it originally end, and copying began, and all these intellectual issues that became the part of the soup of the day, kind of bubbled up around him, and then his work was embraced, even though it was the same as Mike's, who got nothing out of doing it. So but if he would have stayed doing it, he would have been really big. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Even like with the street art thing, I was probably doing it for 30 years before it became a thing, and then suddenly you're like, oh, well, I should stay on the ride for a while longer. Well, because, I did stuff for 30 years for free, and now they want to pay. I should probably stay on the merry-go-round for a few more rounds.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. A lot of people will call you, like, I've heard the term the godfather of street art, and I've talked to you about it before. You've even said to me in conversations that, I don't even know if you have the stomach to do the things you used to do before. I mean, some of the stuff you used to do got you really nervous, right? I mean, you were taking major risks doing some of that stuff.
I did live a lot of my life with the stress of thinking that any moment I could go to prison.
Right.
And never quite understanding what was going on, because nobody tells you what's going on. Yeah. So I think I kind of found out later, because like one time I was at a radio show in LA, and I was just going off, oh yeah, it's like me and Shepard Fairey up all night hitting billboards and this and that. Here's where to go look for them. And my manager's calling me and says, "Don't talk about crimes on the radio." But anyway, I come out and there's a guy, and sometimes I would do a radio show, like we'd be up in Canada, and they would, "Oh, would you do a billboard for us?" And people could kind of get excited and thrilled by the idea of that this guy just does whatever he wants, and maybe he can do something for us. But it took me a second. I gave the guy my card instinctively, because he had a whole entourage and everybody was really excited that he was there. And then it took me a minute to realize that he was the guy that owned the billboard company. And then he was like, "Look, I've been looking for you for, 11 years, And I'm like, "Well, first off, no, you haven't, because I'm in the phone book."
Yeah.
I'm in the phone book and I write my name on the billboard. So, like, don't act like you couldn't find me. I said, "Why don't you tell me what's really going on?" And meanwhile, the two DJs are like, "Let's do it on the air. Let's do it on the air." And I could tell he started getting nervous, because he probably wasn't used to being in the media. especially in a situation like that. So I said, look, why don't you just tell me what the real deal is? And he goes, look, I don't want to come after you, and I don't want to prosecute you because I can't control the story after that. And you may end up being coming out of it some big hero, and we become out the jerks, because you actually, I did know a lot about them, and I knew that sometimes 80% of the billboards they're running are illegal anyway. They don't have the permit anymore to do it, and they just keep doing it, and it's a crazy business, and it's kind of in your face, and it gets a lot of backlash.
Yeah.
So, but his thing was, look, it's look, and I said, well, you got me, arrest me, and he goes, I'm not going to arrest you. I just don't know. I don't want to. I don't know how it's going to come out, and then he said, look, here's the deal. I'll give you free billboards. How about that? You quit just running around doing the billboards because, I go take a client to see a giant billboard and your stuff's all over it. And it's embarrassing for me. and I said, okay, well, I would take free billboards. And I said, are you going to control like the locations? It goes, yes, of course. So they're probably not going to be the prime locations like I'm getting now. Right.
Right.
Well, probably not. But, but you'll be able to satisfy that itch. And I said, and you're also going to control what I say on these billboards, because one of the big reasons that I kept doing it after, I actually earned enough money that I could rent the billboards and not put myself in jeopardy with the law. I found out that you can't say anything on a billboard. You can't make anything that's disparaging to McDonald's because they own too much of the market and they're not going to ever do anything to defend them. You can say support our troops, but you can't say stop the war. They're very strict about what you can do on billboards. You can't say support gay marriage. You can say support marriage. So I thought that so you're going to control what I say. You're going to control where I say it. It's like, it sounds like we're in a standoff, and we kind of left it at that. But up to that point, I wasn't sure why they didn't arrest me. Yeah. It was interesting. Later, I was at Comic-Con signing, and this guy goes, "Oh yeah, my brother's a cop in New York," and I'm like, "Well, how come he never arrested me?" And he goes, "Oh, well, if they were told to arrest you, like if their sergeant said arrest him, he'd arrest you. But in the meantime," he goes, "all those guys have all your billboards around their desk, and they think you're funny as hell. And every time you take one, they run down and take a picture of it,
So you ended up kind of being you ended up kind of being like a folk hero to a lot of
cops
these
are just people, and it's like, well, it's like they probably get annoyed at seeing billboards everywhere, and they probably think it's funny somebody has the chutzpah to go just redo one. I don't know.
I think it's great. I think it's great, and it's the same way. You take like the serial characters and talk about the truth. Like, I mean, listen, over the Halloween holiday, I had a friend of mine who was in the US that sent me a box of each of the monster cereals, and I gave some to Ryan as well. Because I mean, that to me is an immediate, brings me right back to my childhood, Saturday mornings, pouring those in, eating. But the truth of the matter is it's made with absolute poison. But I still plowed through 3 boxes of them because it brought back that great feeling,
Yeah. But you're in pretty good shape. I've had some of my friends like give themselves diabetes off that stuff.
I know. And for me, it's a treat. It's a treat. But at the same time, I love the fact that you tell the truth about those characters. Cause like you're saying, at the beginning, or when we start talking about this, the insurance company will get a cute little character to make you feel like you're safe. And the same thing with the cereal companies, they'll give you this cute little character and be like, oh yeah, here's Tony the Tiger. Here's Snap, Crackle, Pop. But the fact that you would take them and tell the truth about them, I thought was always great. And that's how I actually, there was the first time I discovered your art was when you were doing the whole Obama thing. When everybody was contributing their take on Obama, and you did the Abraham Obama, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. But then the first time I saw one of your toys, I was on LA on Melrose, and someone had Yucky Charmer, and I was like, what is that? And I remember I immediately picked it up and brought it home, and that's when I started going down the rabbit hole about the serial killers. So it's fun because you end up kind of being a folk hero. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're the guy that's not afraid to stick it to the man, but you do it in a way where and that's why I was asking you about the nerves, because I'm sure at one point, probably now not so much, but I'm sure at one point you were probably constantly worrying about, is someone coming after me for lawsuits, this and that? Like, is that something that's still prevalent, or do you just kind of let that go now?
I could probably still get lawsuits. It doesn't seem that way. And I have a really good copyright lawyer, and I'm actually weirdly careful about what I do. And it seems like sometimes I'm crossing a line but I know where the line's at, and I know I haven't crossed the line. But no, then like I remember like I'm going to my studio and then I get a phone call and somebody goes like, "There's these 4 guys standing in front of your studio with suits on," and I'm like, "Well, I'm not meeting anybody, so they could well be detectives." And then so I don't go to work that day because I just don't know why they're there or what they want, or because sometimes what they'll do is they will take the pictures of the billboards and they'll sometimes you wait if somebody's going to persistently do something, especially a graffiti artist, you wait till they do enough to make it a grand felony so that you could really nail them. You don't just like want to get them for 1 or 2 pieces. You want to get a whole a bunch of pieces so you can make sure you get them really prosecuted. So they could just be collecting pictures of your billboards so that they can just have this huge case against you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you don't know. And I think there's a 7-year statute of limitations. So like then one day it had been 7 years since I'd done a billboard. And well, because I also kind of said, look, if the world or the universe decides that they want to give me big walls to paint, then I won't do illegal things anymore.
Sure, of course.
And then they did, but I still wanted to do illegal things. So I don't know. So I still do it a little bit, but not with the vigor that I did once. But it's still nice just to be able to go just say what you want to say.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and it's fun. We talked a bit about Punk Skunk, and what I love about this character is that you can give me a set of lyrics, and I can sing, and I can try to be Punk Skunk, and I can say things that I might not normally say in my normal voice. And also, I can live vicariously through Punk Skunk. Like I'm sober 29 years, but I can be a pot smoking skunk.
Yeah.
In another universe. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah. It's kind of like being Cheech and Chong. You could, I doubt, well, I think one of them doesn't smoke weed anymore, but no, but I mean, I was finding there's so much hostility and and everybody's so amped up that you can't really even talk about anything anymore, you know, without people feeling like they're offended. And what if you created this other universe where all these characters had their own religions and their own politics, and none of them directly parallel, anything on surface world? Then you could actually start talking about, all this stuff.
Sure.
I don't know. If you're from a certain religion, that seems normal to you, you know, but if anybody else's religion is going to seem really weird, and you know what, your religion is really fucking weird too. And not believing in God's really weird. Everything's weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everything, it's all like, but it's just sad that we can't all be in it together. And it's weird, like with Facebook and stuff, and people get like so hostile over the last 4 years here. And meanwhile, but if you meet them in person, wow, you just got your arms around each other and you're best friends again. And it somehow those differences don't mean anything in person. I don't know.
Yeah. I know people. I mean, it falls into that whole, I'm sure Ryan will agree. Like it falls into that whole keyboard warrior thing,
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's also, I think you have to, come to terms with the fact that you may not be right either. You know what I mean? You're trying to do the right thing and treat the world the right way. But you could be wrong too,
I think what happens right now is like, we're pretty much documenting our lives. Everybody on Facebook, they're just kind of like, they're publishing a diary that thousands and thousands of people can see. And sometimes when you're going through a moment, sometimes you should keep that moment for you, because years later, I'll look at old posts and I'll be like, wow, I sound like a dick back then. But I thought in the moment I was completely right. But it's because I didn't have the foresight to think, that moment you thought you were kind of like everyone was against you, but at the same time, you weren't looking at it from their perspective. And I think it's the same way right now. I think we really, as a human society, got to remember, as you said, when you're in person, all of a sudden, a human being is a human being with a birthday, with parents, with all this stuff that enjoys holidays and smiles, and like you're not connecting the dots that you might be making a human being cry that day with your bad day. And I think we all got to remember, just because you're looking at writing, there's a person behind that writing.
Yeah. True. But it was a brand new way of communicating, and you're not going to launch a new way to communicate and then have the decorum of how to act in that space be attached to it automatically.
Yeah.
it's kind of, we have to learn how do we deal with the space, you know?
Well, that's what I've always said when people complain about, how people act on social media. I'm like, well, we're teenagers, right now, social media are teenagers and into maybe young adulthood. So they're going to grow up. It's going to grow up. It's going to get a bit more, it's going to level out. And I think everything will kind of calm down eventually, but.
And maybe some people get more of a voice, because sometimes, I realize that, I'm over 6 foot, and sometimes I may dominate a conversation and not realize I'm doing it. Or sometimes maybe just people don't want to express their opinion because maybe they think you're famous, or that you're big, or you look like you might punch them, or you know what I mean? And then they're seeing this as a safe space where they can say what they really think and not, get punched in the face. Or, they've had a different experience than you. Yeah.
100%. So what do you got coming up next? I know that you always have stuff on the go.
But here's my, during the pandemic, it was funny. I went from having every day booked for a year, every day, to everything was done. So I'm sitting here in my basement right now. You can see behind me, I built weird sets. I took all the lyrics I did for all those records that we worked on. And I made this book. It's all the lyrics. And then I built a different set to illustrate every song. So it's a year I'll never be able to have again, because I got to do really long-winded, obsessive things.
Okay.
And
oh, nice.
I'm never going to be able to do anything like that again. But that was like my magical year of just being alone in my own head and not really interacting with anybody, except arguing with a few people about Trump or whatever. But yeah, I got to sit here and illustrate all these songs, and I got to bring to life my world of Delusionville. To the point of making every flower, every house, every car, like every weird little detail of the world. I got to see it through. So if I end up doing it, with the production company or later, and other people, jump in, I feel like I've solidified, 90% of the world, and it's still open to other people coming in and doing stuff. But I got my yayas out. I got to say what I wanted to say, and then lock it in, and now it is. But
so now, so people can. So that book's going to be coming out very, very soon, eh?
Yeah, it's out now. Yeah, it's
okay.
Called, Greetings from Delusionville, and it's on Last Gasp Press.
Okay.
We'll put it on our site. We'll sell it. We sell some from our site, but we probably won't sell it for like a month and a half, because usually we give a publisher like a couple months to sell the stuff before we start competing with them.
Sure.
Because I think if you buy from my site, I do a little drawing in the front and stuff, so it's a little more special. But yeah, you got to give them their chance.
So you've got that.
I did a thing I wish I would have done with every book. I don't know why I didn't think of it, but
nice.
I printed little frames, because I always draw like in people's books, and sometimes I never really leave a good page to do a doodle on. So now I actually have a frame where I can do a piece right in the frame. So
that's very cool. So it's hopefully when people start coming to see each other again in person, they'll have a spot to get a sketch. And you mentioned also you've got a new toy coming with Tower. But you're always in development with something, right? Like you've got stuff.
Yeah.
You're always.
Well, I have a whole bunch of NFT stuff. The Light Called Crypto Club is the most active thing right now.
Right.
And that, God bless him, my son had just graduated financial school, and right during the pandemic, and I said, well, did your financial professors talk about NFTs? They're like, no, they don't know what that is. And I said, well, did they talk about crypto, currency and stuff? No. So basically, your financial advisors or your teachers didn't know anything about the biggest exchange of money in the history of the world. Okay.
Yeah.
I said, like, this is big. It's brand new. It's happening. We need to be a part of this. Would you like help me for a year? And so he put together the Light Club Crypto Cult project. I came up with different concepts. I showed him a bunch of concepts. He picked which one he thought would work.
Yeah.
And then I drew 1,000 different images with the light bulb, using the light bulb as the central thing. And then he found somebody to aggregate it, and he found partners to work on it with. And it's like an active club now. So every day he's up there right now, packaging up T-shirts, and anybody that bought over 20. Now, nobody's told what's going to happen, but anybody that bought more 20 bulbs, they get to pick one of the bulbs and have a print made out of it.
Oh, nice.
Or you might get this, or so he does stuff for them every day. So it's like they're in a club, and they get goodies like all the time, and they get access to our weird secret shows and stuff. And So basically, he's built it to be like a clubhouse, and I just don't think I could have done what he's done. You know what I mean? It's just it's too new. There's too much happening. There's too many moving parts. I didn't quite understand it, and he's got what I call the brand new brain, and he can assess a lot of information and come up with the right conclusion, and also I gave him agency over it so that it really is his project. In a way, I kind of work for him. He's like, oh, I have this famous football player that wants a hand-drawn bulb, and I just, whatever he tells me to do, I do, you know? So the weird way, no, because I had this guy here yesterday, and real sweet, but his dad was super rich and, you know, owned a bunch of yachts or whatever. And I think he's always been tortured by his dad because his dad thinks he's not up to, you know, his dad yells at him all the time and wants him to run the business. And, you know, I think we'll give him some kind of agency inside the business so that he can do his own thing. And, you know, because you want your legacy to go on, and you want the thing you built up not just to die.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. You're getting your kids involved is like, it's got to be the nicest thing to see your kids involved in something, and you guys can work together. It's got to be really.
And also Zephyr, my daughter, is she did the I just told her, like, the main thing we want to accomplish now is we have all these characters from Delusionville, and people don't know who they are. Like, you know, behind me is where's she at? Elefanka, but people don't know who she is. So we want to make products so that we can, you know, you can earn your keep, but we want the products to help people understand who these characters are. So the first thing she did was, we'll make trading cards, and then on the back it'll explain who they are, and that was very popular and sold out very quick. And then now she's working on a high school yearbook, so it's really fun, and she's laying the whole thing out as we speak. And everybody's went to high school, everybody's going to get the high school yearbook, so it's a way to put everything together and make it a lot of fun. So, but I mean, again, that they got their own projects inside this world.
I think it's great that you have all hands on deck, and that it's a family affair, because
now we're trying to find a dog. So we're super jealous of your dog.
Don't take my dog. Don't take my dog.
We got to the border and they wouldn't let us cross the border. So
don't take. Well, actually, you know,
be gone.
Hey, listen, if you can send me an American Depress, I'll send you the dog.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
No, but it's fun. We've been without a dog. Our dog died a couple of years ago, and we're like real dog people. So
it's
you know, it's I don't know. I like seeing the dog through the world through the dog's eyes. I like going on a walk with the dog and realizing they're having a completely different experience than me. They're smelling things that I can't smell, and I don't know. I think it's very grounding to hang out with a dog. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Ryan and I are both dog people. We both.
And your dog is great.
Yeah, I love my dog, and Ryan's got a great dog too. Animals are special, man. I really believe they're little angels on earth here for us. They're pretty great.
Well, it's nice that we made these great relationships with them, right? Yeah.
They don't. What's that?
They don't. Animals don't have Facebook.
So, no, they don't.
They don't care if you get a bad review or somebody's mean to you on Facebook. It's like,
no,
let's go for a walk.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, oh wow, this is great.
And you kind of think, like, I have to remind myself, like, the best part of your life is really just having a walk with a friend, or you know, having a little barbecue with your friends. It's like that's something that's kind of accessible to most people, you know.
Yeah, no.
And the other stuff, going to these fancy parties, it's like, I don't like him because, like, what if I get too drunk and say something stupid and get, like, I don't know, what do they do to people? It's not 86 or
cancel
Me Too or whatever.
Yeah.
No, it's like, there's nothing, you know, the simple things are the coolest things, I think. Yeah.
I could not agree with you more. Ron, thanks so much for taking the time to chat today, man. It's always a pleasure to catch up, and this is a real treat to be able to sit down and have a long form chat with you. You know,
we all really love your show here, and my kids are huge fans of you guys, and
well, we appreciate it, man. I mean, that means a hell of a lot to us, because Ryan and I are, I think everybody on this screen right now are very similar, that we're all huge fans and big kids of everything. So it's nice to have, you know, like-minded people have a chat. I can't wait to see you in person again. I can't wait to hopefully perform some of this music in person sometime,
me too.
Which would be a lot of fun. And thanks again for taking the time, man. It means a hell of a lot.
We have a gallon of gas in the garage and an empty room upstairs. So.
Yeah, they call it the Rockman solution.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you soon, man.
Cool, man. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Man, you know, I learn every time I talk to Ron English or, you know, get to hear him speak, I always learn something. Like, I thought NFT was some obscure, like, eastern province of Canada I have not yet heard of. But, you know, it's...
No, those are the Northwest Territories, Ron.
Yeah, I know. And I'm just kind of like thinking, I'm like, Is my old man yelling at a cloud isms about NFTs the equivalent of when, cars came out and I was on my horse and buggy and I'm just like, it's never gonna last.
I know. Well, listen, I don't, Ron gave me a couple of NFTs, and I have them, and they're rad. They're really, really cool. And I just don't get it yet. I'm someone who still likes, I'm old school. Like, as you know, Ryan, I still buy movies. I still buy vinyl. I like having physical stuff, but I get how someone could get into this. So, NFTs are here to stay. Say what you want. You can take the acronym and make fun of it. And you could say, oh yeah, like, if you've had a vasectomy, you've got non-functioning testicles. Like, if you see someone that has, as well endowed, you can say they have nice fucking titties. Say whatever you want, but NFTs are here to stay. And Ron, as always, is on the forefront of the movement, and it's nice to see. So, but that was a really rad chat. That was really, really cool. I mean, I'm glad that we were able to weave Slash and Ron English in the same episode and have it make sense, because it does make a lot of sense. You're talking about two people that are passionate, have nothing to prove to anyone, and just make art for the right reasons because they need to get it off their chest. I really, truly believe that both of those guys exist on this episode together for that reason.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Absolutely. And it's kind of like what I love about Slash and Ron is that they're two people not content with just staying with what they've already accomplished. There's always something on the horizon with both of those people.
100%. As you saw with, Slash talking about what's coming up. And then Ron, showing us new pieces that are coming through Tower Records or through his, the Light Crypto Club. So, yeah, it's cool. It's very, very cool. And I'm glad that you were able to be on this journey with me, man, because we went from doing that crazy trip and meeting Ron to having him on the podcast. So I think it's cool. I'm glad. I'm really, really happy.
Absolutely. And a big shout out to my tattoo artist, Alex from Saving Grace Tattoo. He always has Slash playing and he loves Guns N' Roses. But you know what, man? You know what he's always playing?
What?
He's playing the Myles Kennedy shit.
Yeah.
Like that, it's fucking great. When the second Slash album came out with just Myles, it was absolutely awesome. And the really cool thing is that Myles was just a singer on Slash's first solo album, where he had a bunch of different singers, and just him and Myles connected the most. And also shout out to Myles Kennedy, who had a small role in the movie Rockstar, where he was the guy out singing Mark Wahlberg's character at the very end. I think his name was Thor. And it's absolutely amazing how, I when I saw that guy, I'm just like, I'm gonna remember this guy. And then years later, oh, it's the same dude. And seeing them crush at Heavy MTL before all this nonsense started was a highlight of my life.
Pretty special stuff, I have to agree. So thank you again for being on this journey with us. My name is Jason Rockman. I'd like to thank our producer, Julia Kajerski, my co-host, Ryan Stick, and our guests, Slash and Ron English, and all of you for joining. Please like and subscribe if you are enjoying what you are hearing and watching, and share with your friends. We really appreciate all the time that you invest in us, because we all know your eyeballs and earballs could be anywhere right now, but you've spent a bit of time with us, and it's appreciated. So we will see you next week on the Rockman Power Hour.